Hey folks, I'm Dave. Welcome to the basement. So it's time for the second part of my CD update, March 2024 CD update. Don't have a ton to show. I have one new release, a few 90s things, and a couple of things from the early 21st century. And starting things off is this album from a band with an awesome name, and the name of the album is Lullabies for Lunatics. And the band name is Ghost Orgy. So, all right, I'll admit, I picked this. This is a blind buy. I picked this up based on the band's name and the cover art. Came out in 2005. This was self-released by the band, not on vinyl. So, if you're interested in this, well, wait till I finish talking about it. Maybe it doesn't even matter. But so anyway, yeah. Looking at the cover art, I'm thinking, gothic metal, gothic rock, doom maybe, female vocals, and really that's true. That is what you get with this. They were a gothic doom band from New Jersey, fronted by Dinah Concina. That's who that is there. Yeah, she's her voice is a little unpolished, but it's not terrible. It's still enjoyable. Musically, the band, again, they definitely are in the gothic metal vein, doomy gothic metal vein. They try really hard for a progressive angle to their music, but the proficiency just isn't quite there. It's not bad. It was a self-released new band or newish band, so you kind of expect things to be a little loose, and they were. But the biggest drawback with this album here is that they're trying to incorporate a viola into just about every track and going for that enhanced gothic feel. But they don't quite know how to pull that off proficiently. So it ends up with it sort of sounds at odds with the rest of the album. It's just really out of place, and it's really kind of off-putting. I mean, there are some brief flashes of interest here, but in the end, this was just a really boring album for me. I'm not sure if I'm going to hang on to this. Again, the band name is cool. It's kind of an obscurity, being that it's self-released, but I don't think I'm ever going to be pulling this off the shelf to listen again. But I don't know if that's your thing. If you want to try this band out, see if you can find clips online. I think there's some. But anyway, this is Lullabies for Lunatics by Ghost Orgy. All right, and here is the new release for this update. This is Glasgow Eyes by the Jesus and Mary Chain. Came out in March on Fuzz Club Records. This is the band's 8th album. And if you're not familiar with the Jesus and Mary Chain, they are a Scottish post-punk band centered around the core duo of Jim and William Reed, brothers. And this is, as I said, it's their 8th album, and it's their first since 2017's Damage and Joy. And so I was really, really excited to get this album, pre-ordered this one, which I don't often do. I don't often pre-order, but this one I had to get. Fan of the band. They're Scottish, post-punk, that's okay. You get where I'm coming from. So some highlights on this. Well, before I get into that, I just want to say that this is a pretty excellent album. I really enjoyed this. It both conjures up their early sound while also managing to remain sort of fresh and relevant. So I just think this is a really great album. And yeah, some of the highlights, I think it might have been their first or maybe second single was Girl 71, one of the last tracks on the album. Just fun, guitar driven, nice vocal harmonies. It's really just a great kind of alternative rock sound or song. I really enjoyed that one. Venal Joy, which is the lead-off track. That's a really, well, okay, it's an up-tempo track, and if you know anything about Jesus and Mary Chain, Freudian slip. when something is this kind of high energy and up tempo, you consider it kind of a scorcher for the band. I mean, it's not speed metal or anything like that, but if you know their core sound, their bass sound, this was a little bit more energetic and just really enjoyable for me. And then I think my favorite track, I know my favorite track on this album is JAMCOD, Jesus and Mary Chain OD. Totally groovy track, great synth elements, cool fuzzy guitar. This is kind of I mean, throughout the album, you get a wonderful use of electronics and this tasteful use of sort of a fuzzy guitar tone. And it really comes out on this track. I really enjoyed that track. That's my favorite off the album. I know it's early, but I'm kind of thinking this is going to be in the running for my top 5 albums of 2024. I enjoyed it this much or that much. So yeah, this is Glasgow Eyes by the Jesus and Mary Chain. And I'm going to come back to Michigan for this next one. This is the self-released debut album called Feed and Grain by Kung Fu Diesel. And this came out in 1996, self-released as I mentioned. This is also CD only. You're not going to find this on vinyl. And this one you're probably going to want to look for if it sounds interesting to you or the style of music sounds interesting to you. So Kung Fu Diesel, besides having an awesome name, again, is or was a heavy rockabilly band out of a village called Parma here in Michigan, which is kind of an agricultural village near Jackson, Michigan, which is kind of south central location in the state. So that's neither here nor there, irrelevant kind of to the music, just me being a Michigan geek. But anyway, so their sound, heavy rockabilly, but by what I mean by that is take that and then think, so take rockabilly, and then add to that a combination of Primus and Cake. And that's kind of what you get with Kung Fu Diesel, especially on this album. Elvis in My Dungarees, the title or the lead-off track on the album, is a real high-energy rocker with more than a hint of that Primus influence. I think this is where you're going to hear the majority of the Primus influences on that track. I mean, it's throughout, particularly with the way I can't remember his name now. The way that he handles that upright bass, it's just I love it. Silicone, Carefree, 4th track on the album. That's where you're going to hear the most of the Cake influence. It's got a super cool groove to that track. And again, those two influences are throughout. But if you're looking for the Primus and the Cake, those are the tracks to get those influences most readily, respectively. So yeah, I mean, this was a fun album. It's really quick. Well, not really quick. Most of the tracks come in at under 2.5 minutes, but it's still really fun. And if that sounds like your thing, if you're into Primus and Cake and rockabilly or all 3 or 2 of the 3 or whatever, give these guys a try. I think they're interesting enough that you want to give them a listen. So yeah, this is Feed and Grain by Kung Fu Diesel. This next one was a blind buy, and it turns out to be the band's self-released second and final album. It's called Raw Feed by Triangle, and I was intrigued by the cover on this one. That's why I picked it up. I don't know. Does that look like Axl Rose from the Welcome to the Jungle video to you? I don't know. That's what caught my attention, and I thought, give this a shot. And so yeah, the band Triangle, I really couldn't find anything out about this band other than they're from California. There's just really not a whole lot out there on the internet, or maybe I was just looking on the wrong internet. I don't know. But they are, or were, at least on this album, a hard rock band. Definitely a 90s sound. Think of bands like Motley Crue, Warrant, LA Guns, those kind of bands, how they sounded in the 90s. So hair metal in the 90s, kind of the direction that those bands were taking. That's kind of what you get on this album. And there's a handful of decent power ballads thrown in. Some of the tracks I liked more than the others. I mean, it was still a good album, Black Hill is a groovy hard rock track, definitely a 90s metal song. If you're a 90s era hair metal song, if you're familiar with modern Alice Cooper, his sound that he's kind of taken on recently or last decade or so, that's you're going to get a lot of that on this track. Another good one is Train to Blue, which is just a driving song with a cool bass groove. Yeah, I really found this to be a pretty decent album. You know, I'm almost thinking that if grunge didn't hit the way it did, this probably would have made more of a splash. If hair metal, hard rock sort of stayed the course of popularity, I think this might have been at least a second tier band at the in the mid '90s. But as it is, it's one of those obscure gems for the 80s hard rock, 90s hard rock fans. So yeah, this is Raw Feed by Triangle. All right, gonna swing things back to the Detroit area this time. This is an EP actually, not on vinyl, so this is just something you're also gonna have to check out only on CD if you're interested. This is an EP titled Sands Muscles, without muscles, from a band called Majesty Crush. And they're, like I say, they're out of Detroit. This came out in 1994 on Vulva Records, which is a label, local label pretty much associated with this band. Did a couple other things too, related things, but primarily Majesty Crush. So yeah, Majesty Crush was a shoegaze, sort of dream pop band, more shoegaze, out of Detroit, as I said. And they released their final album in 1993. But they went on to release a couple more EPs, and this is the second of those EPs they released after that final album. So what's kind of disappointing on this one is the production is really thin. So it's sort of a quiet, I don't want to say muddy, but just kind of a subdued sort of production sound, which kind of detracts a little bit. But you know, that's neither here nor there. But if you want to check out a track, I would go with the second track on here, Sane, S-E-I-N-E. It's got a nice big bass, driving wall of sound sort of guitars. To me, the best track on this EP. But yeah, it's still interesting. If you're a shoegaze fan and you don't know Majesty Crush, this is probably not the place to start, but it's a band you should at least check out. So yeah, this is Sands Muscles by Majesty Crush. And the final CD for today, or for this update anyway, so I was going through, I'm still working on cataloging all the CDs into Discogs. So for some reason I missed the whole couple of letters of the alphabet at one point. So I'm going through putting those all together. I'm working through T and hit my Tiamat collection, and I realized I didn't have their last album. So I had to check that out, and on Amazon it was just a couple of bucks, well, a few bucks. So snatch it up real quick. And of course I'm talking about The Scarred People. Came out in 2012 on Napalm Records. And this was the band's 10th, I believe, and last album, as I said. So yeah, if you're not familiar with Tiamat, they're a band, I love this band, and have since their inception as more of a straightforward, more of a doom death band. I almost said death metal, but there's definitely a doom death quality or aspect to their early albums, all the way up through the later 90s. They developed a more gothic sound, gothic metal sound, and that's kind of where they went, kind of where they stayed ever since. And they're so yeah, they're the core of the band is singer, songwriter, guitarist, keyboardist Johan Edlund. So he's kind of the core member. A lot of the members have been in the band for a long time, but he's like the engine, sort of the creative engine of the band. So anyway, I don't know if I mentioned they're from Sweden. And if you are familiar with Tiamat, just a bit of lineup trivia. This album, longtime guitarist Thomas Peterson he had been replaced just prior to this album by Roger Oyerson from Catatonia. So if you're familiar with Catatonia, which is another band I enjoy, that's just, again, a bit of trivia. So there's a lot I got to say about this album. So the title track, which is the lead-off track for the album, Scarred People, is just an outstanding track to start this album with. It's upbeat, it's haunting, great sort of chant-like choruses that the band is kind of known for, at least in the later years. Messenian Letter is another track. This is basically sort of a straight-up rock ballad, so it's a little out of place, but it still works. It's still pretty good. Thunder and Lightning, that's an up-tempo goth rock track that has some really nice synth accents, but it's notable because it features a solo from a guitar solo from Gus G. So that was pretty cool. It was a good track. Paradise, which is a bonus track on the CD, is an interesting cover of the Springsteen track Paradise, Springsteen song Paradise. It features vocals from Anders Ivers, which, it like I said, it's interesting, but it works really good. I enjoyed it. To, I guess, offset that, there's another cover, Born to Die, which again is another bonus track for the CD. And this is a Lana Del Rey cover, which, while not terrible, it's kind of close. It's totally out of place for the album. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because, again, it's a Lana Del Rey cover. She seems to be kind of a popular subject in the vinyl community. And if you're interested in checking out some of the bands that have covered her songs, this might be one. Not the best, obviously, but it's, if you're into that. So yeah, I really enjoyed this album. It's different. It's definitely interesting. Other than that album opener, the first half of this album is really melancholic. It definitely gives you that gothic doom sort of feeling that if you're familiar with the band, you kind of become accustomed to over the course of the last few years. It's not doom per se, but it really evokes kind of a melancholy sadness feeling. Then it diversifies into, like I said, it's got like straight up rock ballad and some other things, Bruce Springsteen song, but it still maintains the somber tone. So it's definitely good. It's definitely interesting throughout. Is it their best? Nah, by far. By far, it's not the best. Wild Honey still sticks in my mind as probably their best of their doom death or early era. As far as the Gothic era, Skeleton Skeletron is a really good one. That's the one that's sticking in my mind. So, I haven't listened to that or its brothers and sisters recently. So, I'm just gonna have to go with that one right now until I refamiliarize myself with the catalog. So, yeah, Wild Honey and Skeleton Skeletron. If you want to check out the two eras of the band and you're not familiar with them, those are the albums to do it with. So anyway, long way of introducing 2012's The Scarred People by Tiamat. All right, well, that's it for the March CD updates to the collection. Thanks for sticking with me. I hope you found something that you might be interested in checking out. And if there's some of these CDs that you happen to be familiar with, please let me know. I'd like to talk about them down in the comments. That would be fantastic. And until I see you again, I hope everyone takes care and picks up some great tunes. Catch you later.